So more so than ever, the big voguish concepts in urbanism, particularly in the early 20th century, have concerned the future, right? This hasn't been in a big, bold 20th century kind of futuristic city kind of a way. It's been a lot more in a sense of an acute anxiety about the future. So the notions of the sustainable city, for instance, or the resilient city, or for that matter, the smart city, are all concepts that reflect urbanists' concern with the future. In particular, they reflect a growing acknowledgement as to the uncertainty of the future and the need of cities to adapt to that uncertainty. And this is a real departure from the certainties of mid-20th century thinking about cities. So today, the concepts that urbanists are talking about are ostensibly about making cities future-proof, whatever crisis the future holds, whether it's an economic crisis or environmental catastrophe or war, or indeed pandemics, right? And it's only now, in the midst of a global pandemic, a pandemic that thrives on urban life, do we see which of the innumerable interventions that have fallen under the umbrellas of sustainable and resilient and smart cities, which of these, if any, actually helps the city move forward into the future? Pop-up gardens, digital community boards, real-time GPS tracking, facial recognition, bike hire schemes, all smart city, resilient city initiatives, all might play an increasingly important part in the post-pandemic city. But there's a couple of important things that we're overlooking in all of this. First, it's the extent to which the various initiatives that fell under those umbrellas of smart, resilient, and sustainable can actually often leave existing inequalities unremedied and at worst actually exacerbate them. But the other thing that we're overlooking while distracted by the new miraculous technologies of the smart city is the fact that cities still exist and they've existed for a very long time and they've withstood a great deal. And that there's probably aspects of city life that already made it smart and resilient and sustainable. And that those things can be found in the lives of people living in cities. And we do pay scholarly attention to those people, particularly at moments like this and when we're looking at the fissures riven across cities and the abrasive hostility found between city dwellers. But within the lives of people, we also find remarkable acts of everyday neighbourliness, conviviality, practices of care, and wherever you turn in cities, we find urbane manners and etiquettes that afford at least a modicum of respect and recognition between city dwellers. All of these very human aspects of the city are crucial to its survival into the future, as they have been in its past. It's people that make cities smart and resilient and sustainable. And that's one of the reasons it's such an interesting and important time to look at urban studies from an explicitly sociological angle. There's so much in the tradition of sociology that reveals how we, as individual city dwellers, might help urban life to blossom amidst its would-be existential threats.
Cities and society, any specific questions about cities and society? Anything you want to underline, Alex, or draw to people's attention? Or?
It's an interdisciplinary course. I think that's the first thing to kind of foreground. It contains elements of sociology, human geography, anthropology. We explore things through visual methods. Lots of people have spoken about the multi-sensory approaches to research already, and it's not something that I foregrounded, but it's a really big part of the programme, thinking about the full spectrum of experiences in the city. And I guess, that is one of the challenges to us and all, urbanism MAs this year is, how do we use the environment around us as we have done in the past for research purposes. But I think, moving some of the kind of more practical activities to spring, summer, when the R rate will hopefully be sufficiently low. We're already thinking of ways of kind of working around things. I also think, we've already got a little bit of a taste of this from when we went into lockdown in June, July. And I think, we actually, far from just kind of, making do with the technology that we had, I think we've already started exploring some really interesting ways of changing the learning experience. I'm a big advocate of, what we're calling kind of flipping the lectures, which is, to kind of pre-record the lecture So, you know, I can speak at you in your own time, and then actually, you know, the time that's allocated for lectures and seminars, we can have proper discussions about the things. And in some respects, you know, this is something that maybe we ought to have been doing beforehand. It's a really great opportunity, I think, to have kind of some deeper discussions and to kind of look at readings more closely.